Welcome to THALIR. This is a place called Bud. This is budding forth for a new life, and we are Capuchins working for the renewal of the society and the church.
Okay, brothers, good morning once again. Actually, I'm very happy and proud to welcome Father Jerry for our meeting. He's not a new person. He has already been familiar with all of us. The whole Franciscan team knows him, the AFI. Through the AFI, we have invited him for several motivational trainings, animation trainings, and seminars. So he's I think, not 50-50 Franciscan and Jesuit, but I think it's more Franciscan, we can say. Maybe 100% Franciscan, little of that is Jesuit. I think he would have been, if the will of God would have been different, he would be among you, among all of us, as a formator of the Capuchins. And this is a blessing for us to have him available for this particular day of motivation for the formators. So, dear friends, today actually I want to introduce Father Jerry. He is also a core team member for our THALIR as a motivation, several planning, execution, all these things. He's involved in it. As we know, he's a Tamil Nadu Jesuit, worked in rural parishes for 23 years. And now he is presently in Dhyana Ashram, but he's most wanted everywhere. And Chennai, he is in Dhyana Ashram, Chennai, involved in the multifaceted, multi-ministries that includes teaching, preaching, writing, and counseling, and facilitating special retreats and congregational chapters. Therefore, it's a very fitting person for us. He's also associated with the Jesuit formation for the past 35 years. All through from the time of his ordination, he is involved in the formation team, formation planning, everything. So right from his ordination. But Jerry is the founder director of the 4 movements, including one is called Dhanam, that promotes human donation from blood. And now in this COVID-19 context, plasma donation. I think you know that for Alex has also started writing a book. Probably for Jerry is the inspiration for all that. Okay, and he is the #1 in India, having donated his blood for 205 times so far. Maybe now it must have increased now. He has already in 1995 signed his living will donation of his whole body and vital organs after his death to the neediest. I think there is a spirit of Francis in him. I see in him that it's not like barefooted Jerry, barefooted Francis. So this, I think, similar charism. It's a very fitting person for us to animate this hour to all the formators. Welcome, Father Jerry, on behalf of our provinces. We welcome you for our group. Thank you so much for your availability.
Quite delighted and very much grateful to you for giving me this opportunity to stand before you this morning and to be at your service. I'm grateful to Father Nithya and Father Benedict for giving me this grace. I call it grace because as I talk to you, I also talk to myself, and so that my ongoing formation, my continuous transformation may also will occur through this particular association with you, our Franciscan Capuchin provincials, council members, and also the formators who are attending this particular virtual meeting, a special one, unique one of this year 2020. I have about 6 points. The first one is very, very important. I like to salute you, appreciate you, especially who are involved in the Ministry of Formation. Why? In the modernized world, in the globalized world, in the digitalized world, and also privatized world, it is not at all easy to be formators. To be involved in the Ministry of Formation is no more a joke. And it's certainly a demanding one, challenging one. It is that I like to place on record my appreciation, my prayerful and fraternal appreciation for what you are doing in the Ministry of Formation. As Father Nithya said, I am also involved in the Ministry of Formation the last 37, 38 years, immediately after my ordination. However, I'm only a part-timer. I'm only a part-timer in the Ministry of Formation. Whereas you are all full-timers. It is my salutation, my congratulations, my appreciation, and much more my special prayers, so that the session and this particular presentation will give you further dynamism and further enthusiasm and further optimism to put your vested mind in this Ministry of Formation. From there, I move on to the second point. Here, I like to place before you what I understand by the when I say we are involved in the Ministry of Formation. The word formation, the concept, and the kind of what call is a focus. That formation has got different dimensions, different demands, different details, and accordingly different definitions. Whereas I like to hit the point, and you don't need to accept what I'm now saying immediately. Since you have got your own discussion, I suggest to you, you take this particular definition itself for your consideration and for eventual concretization. I repeat, this is born out of my own experience as a formee for 12 years in the Jesuit order. Then afterwards for last 38 years in the Ministry of Formation as a part-time. Put together 12 plus 38, 50 years. Either I was a formee or a formator. On the basis of this particular 50 years experience and exposure, I like to give an expression to the very definition of the word formation. It has two P's. P. The first one is picking up challenges from the critical living situation and giving them to oneself for response. I repeat, the first P, picking up challenges from the living critical situations and giving them to oneself for response. The second P, progressing in the formation of one's own conscience, and that has to be well informed and well transformed. The first one is in terms of context. The second one is in terms of conscience. The first one is picking up, and the second one is progressing. Both together is called formation. This can be applicable not only to religious formation or faith formation or Christian religious formation, but also formation even in general human formation. I suppose even the parents or the elders, even in a family context, are expected to render as formators, not only parents, not only seniors, not only elders, they also serve the upcoming generation, their own children and grandchildren in terms of these two. That's why I understand. I hope you will consider this point, and not only consideration, but also will work out and chalk out some concretization in course of time as a fruit of, as a result of this particular colloquium meeting that both the provinces Trichy and Madurai having as a virtual meeting of formators. I wish you all the best, but this is my second point. I'm already finishing my second point. Whereas what other 3 points are a little long, I have to take time. And Father Benedict, last night, I had a word with our organizer. He told me that I can take plus or minus about 45 minutes, then another 10 to 15 minutes for any clarification, further explanation, or you can also add your own experiential reflections so that we will enrich one another and then we really empower ourselves, both individually and collectively, for this ministry of formation. From there, I go to the third point. While I know summing up, I will come back. But the third one is we are living in a context. And this year, 2020, is coming to a close. But on the 1st of January 2020, when we wished one another Happy New Year, we never ever thought that we will be going down in terms of lockdown because of this COVID-19 context. Father Benedict, when I asked him for the expectation for this particular meeting, he gave me two expectations. One is this one. Namely, we are living at a life is going on. Life is going on. As Capuchins, as Franciscans, as Jesuits, life is going on as usual. But that is not the case with reference to the wider humanity. Something is happening in COVID, and something is telling us, and we need to listen. And that itself is a formation definition. We need to pick up the challenge coming through this COVID-19 context. Thank God it's COVID-19. Now the way it has gone through, it has become COVID-20 also. But only we pray that COVID-21 will not come through. So because vaccines are coming up, good news, it's a good news, but still they cannot dismiss the voice of the Lord who is speaking to us through this particular context of COVID. And the coronavirus context has given certain messages to us. I used to say like this, it might appeal to you, we had a shock. This COVID has given us a shock, a kind of an international shock. Out of 193 countries, 187 countries are affected by this COVID. It is called pandemic. Other 6 countries, there are also some, but the World Health Organization says there are so few and they are counted as affected country. Individuals are affected, not the country as such. 187 out of 193 countries. So it has given us a shock, a jolt, a jerk. But this is only one side of the coin. One side is a shock, jolt and jerk. The other side is that we are picking up certain messages, challenges for our life. Once the vaccines are being distributed and people get vaccinated, we may get liberated from COVID. But still, we cannot forget the messages of God, God of history, and God of COVID, and God of shape that is giving to us for our shape. I'd like to give three. Under this particular third point, I have got 3 messages that we are receiving from God of COVID. What are they? First one, the lockdown caused by COVID has given us a challenge to go down. Lockdown outside, go down inside. So this is a formation ministry. And we cannot be only looking hither and thither, but we need to travel inside, pilgrim inside, and check in the court of our conscience what the God of COVID is telling us. I give there again one note which I picked up. Not that it's something new, but what I picked up and what has given me, I tell you. Till the COVID appeared, we thought, generally speaking, we have got solutions for all the problems. With all the advancement of science and technology, with all the advance and promotion of development and improvement, we thought that we could govern ourselves. God has given us a knock. As I touch on as I say in English, on the nail, on the edge of the nail. As it's all over each and every one of us. God is telling us, you are only submighty, and God is almighty. We thought just a year ago that we could do anything, and everything is possible. Now it has come to we have come to a realization when we go down, both individually and collectively, that not all the things are possible. Nothing is possible, nothing is impossible with God's favor. At the same time, without God's favor, not everything is possible. And that means, put it very shortly, what is that one? We need to develop certain profound confidence in the divine providence. I repeat, profound confidence in the divine providence. I tell you, as a formators, whether you are facilitating the formation of candidates, aspirants, novices, or juniors, or philosophers, theologians, the various stages of formation. But this particular note is one of the lessons we need to receive, then we need to pass on to those who are in formation. Profound confidence, not superficial, not peripheral, not goody-goody confidence, a demanding and challenging, profound and prophetic confidence in the divine providence. And we cannot take God for granted. We need to take God with gratitude. I tell you, this is a formation. That means, what you call it, we cannot simply say that we are capable of anything and everything. No, we are incapable. Good. That's the first note. COVID lessons. Number 2 is, this is not something new, but COVID has taught me, and certainly it should be been teaching you. You know it as Franciscans and Capuchins, even without my saying. This is one of the hallmarks or one of the charismatic features of the Franciscan families. What is that one? Simple living, high thinking. This particular COVID context has made us understand no more luxury. We are to live in simplicity. We need to really acquire and procure the joy of poverty, joy of poverty. For example, today and tomorrow, Madras Archdiocese, where I am now talking from, is got the ordination, which is supposed to have been in the month of April, postponed to 8 months. And because I am teaching them, so I am also wishing them all the best. But I tell you, in April, May, in case they had it, there would have been gallows celebration. The very meaning and the purpose of getting ordained for the service to be at the service of the least and the last, and the poorest and the neediest would have been forgotten. Would have been gallows celebration. Now, for example, simple living. Only about 20 people, 30 people. Only parents and siblings. Limited. And that way the celebration taking place. Even marriages. Last 2 months, I blessed at least 3 marriages. Even the Santam Cathedral, Chennai. And there was only about 25 people. The whole cathedral. And there I also gave the suggestion. Not that simple living is important, but it has a output. What is the output? COVID, Lord. The Lord of COVID is telling us, give to the neediest. Give to the poorest. Share with the least and the last. Reach out to the periphery. Don't simply say poor, poor and escape the reality. Challenge yourself. And thereby see that others also can live in dignity. Who says that one? Pope Francis. Where? In the Fratelli Tutti. It comes to that particular point. Everybody has got a dignity, and that calls for certain political charity and social charity, economic charity. He puts that way. It's not only simple pietistic charity. Now the simple living, I think, has come to be norm of life. Norm of life. Even the, what we call it, big even government and secular celebrations and programs are now being brought down, budgets down, but they may save money for some other purpose. But as a religious people, and we have to get that particular orientation, formation, that simple living, not for its own sake, simple living for sharing, making the humanity come up in dignity, in equality, in liberty, in fraternity, put together in solidarity. Look at the way I'm concluding this point. What is that point? It's also spirituality. It's a spirituality. And I love Francis of Assisi on this one because he showed it. Simple living, high thinking. High thinking. And when the 13th century, he made a revolution by his way of life. So my dear brothers and Francis of Assisi, and I don't need to tell you, But since you have invited me, I take joy in sharing that one because I love Francis, as you love Francis. And I like to follow Francis. Now look at the way I'm concluding. You should be following Francis all over. It's really a Franciscan hallmark, and that is ecological sensitivity. And that's also COVID is teaching us. I was quoting the International Executive Director, Dr. Steve Trent, is a director, international scientist director. And then the Ecological Justice Foundation, he puts this way. And what he says is, namely, unless and until take care of nature, virus will come up again in another 3 years. Why? God has created whole cosmos wherein there are 16 lakhs, 70,000 viruses are there, part of evolution. And book of Genesis chapter 1, when it says that God created everything good, including viruses, including coronavirus. But they were in their place. They did their justice. They are supposed to be in our place, and we have to do justice. But when there is a certain what we call taking over others' rights and others' place, and they will react. It is there without elaboration. I will end this particular point saying that cosmic sensitivity is being demanded by this COVID context. I conclude this third point. Let me now put it one by one. So, the COVID context, lockdown outside, go down inside. A profound confidence, profound and prophetic confidence in the divine providence. Second one, simple living, high thinking. Third one, we need to push up the cosmic sensitivity, and we need to deepen our cosmic solidarity, typical of Franciscan spirituality. And that has to all the more underlined, highlighted, and then deliberated over, decided over, done, even in the years of our formation. With this one, I go to the fourth point. And the fourth one is interesting one, and not that something new, but again in the given context, it becomes all the more new. What is that one? Formation is not neutral and should not be neutral, should not be static, should not be indifferent, but it should take sides. I kind of get my point. Namely, the formation should take sides. Sides with whom? For whom we are called upon to serve. And in the formation, because I have gone through also 12 years of formation, when I recollect my years of formation, solid is 7 years out of 12 years. I can label it as formation I went through was neutral. My formator said, be ready for anything. At the end of the day, I know I'm not ready for anything. They said I should be ready for anything. At the end of the day, I was not ready for anything, and I was ready for nothing. And something changed. In the course of my formation, yes, after 7 years, the last 5 years really shaped me, challenged me. Why? It was taking sides. At that time, it was taking sides with Dalits and ruralites, illiterate, abandoned seniors, or illiterate rural widows. And we talked that one. I solidly say 4 decades ago, when I went through our philosophy theology, I still remember some of my formators and professors who did not only pass on the curriculum syllabus, but through the syllabus, through the curriculum, they gave a guise of these people, promoted by Second Vatican Council, the church in the modern world, number 14716. And they quoted, and they said this one church wants, and we need to get ourselves prepared for that one. And I tell you, at least 3 of them, there's no time, there are 3 of my formators. I still remember them with a profound gratitude because they told me, what is that one? We are not getting prepared to be Jesuits, not even getting prepared to be priests. Because the Jesuit one is a kind of a non-sacramental, consecrated life. Okay, priestly ordination is a, what we call it is a sacramental life. Where there is a sacramental one, that is priestly life. Whereas a non-sacramental one, Jesuit life, put together, they don't exist for themselves. Becoming a Jesuit is not the achievement of my life. And getting ordained as a priest is not my achievement of life. Through my Jesuit life, through my priest life, what I am going to do, people who are marginalized, and whether I am ready, getting prepared to take sides with them and be their voice of the voiceless, or much more whether I am ready to give voice to them, whether I will represent them, and much more whether I will join with them and pilgrim with them for their own liberation, salvation, humanization, what we call redemption. I still remember my professor in philosophy theology told me it's not becoming a priest, it's not becoming a Jesuit, it's not taking the vows in the Jesuit order and celebrating Mass and celebrating administering the sacraments. Everything is good. Who says no? But in and through them, what we are going to do to the least and the last. There again, in the COVID context, because I want to talk very contextually. This COVID context has given us some new target people, priority people, so that our formation programs will not be neutral, focused on their cries and causes and concerns. I repeat, so that the formation may not be neutral, and especially in the context of COVID, we need to focus on and see the formists come up so that they will listen to the cries and identify the causes and recognize the concerns and thereby respond to them. Who are the special category people who are just emerging because of this context? I thought of three without any elaboration. Number one, migrants. 7 crores of people in the month of April and May walked hundreds and thousands of miles and then reached home without any ray of hope whatsoever. It is there you and I living in our own formation houses, in our ministry houses, and we have got everything at table. Nothing wrong, but something wrong. What is something wrong? When we do not have that particular heart, a mind, a sense, a spirit for those who are pushed to the margins. The verse of Pope Francis, pushed to the periphery. The verse of Jesus, the least of your brothers and sisters. And I tell you, if you don't focus on people like this, formation will be humbug. High sounding means nothing. You would have done what we call it epistemology, philosophy, metaphysics, cosmology, archaeology, even Christology, Mariology. All for what? All for what? Not to pass in the examination. Not only procure certain cognition. Not cognition alone, but contribution. And that should be the formation. Focus on migrants. And the second one is, especially now we know around the world, around the country, the farmers are being affected. And the farm bills are being passed without due discussion. Though agriculture comes to the state list and the central government is now taking over, passing the laws, getting the signature of President afterwards they pass it. Like that. Since I have got majority in the parliament and we know what is happening over there, it's also happening under our nose. So ministry among agriculture, Ministry among farmers. farmers, Farmers. And that has become, so now when we are living in this particular time and space, when we now teach anything, it should refer to migrants. Number one, farmers, especially landless farmers. Possibly we will be doing it, but now we have to take it very specifically, very sharply, and very substantially. I repeat, very sharply, very specifically, and very substantially, so that those who are getting formation will have the spark, so that tomorrow when they are in ministry, they know how to do theologizing, how to do philosophizing, and they know how to do the ministry in God's mission. Not simply repeating the past, not xeroxing and duplicating what we have been done traditionally and classically, but thinking something anew and creatively, convincingly, challengingly, and making the contribution. The third one is that migrants and what we call landless farmers. The third one is daily workers. Now the COVID has given us the realization, namely the monthly salary people, what we call the white collar, blue collar, somewhere they got, if not 100%, at least 50% in their salary. But those who are working, depending on what we call daily labor left. And I suppose you would have come across, even though there are some state governments in India, without referring to immediately, because that will take some time, namely at least about 2-3 state governments, the daily wages, they included, commercial sex workers. And they were given allowances. Though we are not for that particular flesh trade. However, they were depending on their own body sales and thereby to live. And the COVID, that's don't touch with all the social distancing. There is no point of having sex. And they are like commercial sex workers. Though in the gospel it is put prostitutes, we know the modern language is commercializing their flesh, and that is their work for their livelihood. And there are governments giving. Not that you have to give, I have to give, and we have to give. What I'm now saying, if a secular government can think of and then talk out and work out a new way of responding to the situation of COVID, and that also gives us an orientation in terms of our formation. Today we do for migrants, landless farmers, and what we call it daily workers. Tomorrow, those who pass through our formation, they know what to do in their given time, in their given space, depending on the burning bushes of the day. Exodus chapter 3. Moses saw the burning bush, encountered it, and he responded. So also our form is, today they get the learning, tomorrow they will do all the more. From there I move on to the fifth point. That is, Father Benedict has given me also that title, Discovering New Paths. PATHS, Paths of Life. The topic given to me. So I have to make a little response to that one. What is that one? We are formed. I like this particular point because I think Father Benedict had that one behind his head. But last night and this morning, when I prayed over and prepared for this talk, it came to my mind this way. We are forming people not just for today's, we are forming people for tomorrow's. And we need to have a futuristic perspective. We need to have a towards tomorrow orientation. So that the formation does not get over today, much more you should not be thinking of yesterdays. No yesterdays, but not just today's, but also tomorrow's. I repeat, certainly not yesterdays. The formation should not be in terms of yesterdays. Should not be just focusing on today's, but it should be visualizing in terms of tomorrow's. And there I have thought of 3 new paths for your consideration. So that whichever subject, whichever topic, or whichever stage of formation you are busy with, you bring this one. Because tomorrow, in another 10 years, 15 years, 2030, 2035, another 10-15 years, this will be needed. If not even earlier, 2025. So that those who are getting formed, when they come out, they'll be prepared for new paths. And new paths, new ministries, and new services. I give again 3. 1, human rights ministry. Human rights ministry. Why I thought of it? And the workers have lost their rights. They do not know they have rights. Human rights. This also triggered off by Pope Francis encyclical Fratelli Tutti. Why? The Fratelli Tutti talks about this. So it's our duty to give, and it is their rights to receive. Human rights ministry. We were thinking only human resources ministry, but now it becomes human rights ministry. Number 1. Number 2, ministry among farmers. And I know some of the congregations, possibly even your own provinces, and some of the dioceses, including also some institutes like this, we have got ministry among fisher folk. Ministry among fisher folk. I think the time has come that we need to really start and think of, at least get our families getting ready and prepared for ministry among farmers. The third one is typical, that is Franciscan. What is that one? Ecological ministry, which they call green ministry. And what is new? Okay, Francis obviously talked the 13th century, but at the time there was not much of pollution. No question of human development at the cost of the ecological development. And at the time there was no globalization, privatization, liberalization. And we are living in the 21st century. We need to put on the mind of Francis. Put on the mind of Francis. And then we have to ask the question, what Francis will do in terms of ecology if he were alive in the year 2020. St. Paul writing letter to the Philippians, chapter number 2, verse number 5. Letter of St. Paul, letter to the Philippians, chapter number 2, verse number 5. St. Paul says like this, put on, have the mind of Jesus. Have the mind of Jesus. I'm now putting the same, have the mind of Francis. And when he said Laudato Si, 13th century, in what way he will call us to do, and accordingly we have to go for our formation. So that as formators, we, as a formists, others, join together, they go through this particular process and picking up the challenge in order to respond to the challenge and making our consciousness clean and clear in this aspect. New path. 1, human rights ministry. Second one is ministry among farmers. And the third one is ecological ministry dictated by the data and the details of globalized world. Ecological ministry dictated by, demanded by the data and the details of today's globalized world. We need to rethink even Franciscan understanding of ecology, not only praising God for the creation, much more concretely contributing to that particular cosmic connectivity. Good. Moving to the last point, 6th point, is nothing but this one. I like to pray for you. So I started somewhere at 9:55. I am concluding it by 10:30, 35 minutes, so that as the original program goes, till 10:45, any clarification, any questions, I'm at your service. Though I was planning for 45 minutes, but since the earlier section took long time and I cut short, at the same time I've given all the highlights, only the examples and so on and so forth, I cut short. But I conclude because I want to see that we also interact. For which a solid time of 10 to 15 minutes needed, so that as Father Benedict, Brother Benedict has decided, namely 10:45, we can have a little coffee break before you go for other programs. That's what the timetable he gave to me last night. I stick to that. Good. Last one, I like to make a special prayer. And not that I'm going to say the prayer. I'd like to ask for the grace of God for each and every one of you who are involved in the ministry of formation. Look at the detail. Fire, the grace of fire and winds. Fire and winds. And this is I'm borrowing from Chinese wisdom, Chinese proverb. And I like to put it in my own way. What is that one? Each and every one of us, whether we are formator or formee, each and every one of us has got certain fire within him. It's a divine fire. There's a spark. And the spark should not be kept as spark. The fire should not be kept only as that. Okay, God lives within me. And the spark, the divine spark is within me. And the Chinese proverb says, yeah, it is yours to discover and much more respect the divine spark within you, the fire within you. God lives. There's a fire. But the only thing, it should not be put down. Look at the next place. And the fire should take on wings and fly even out of you for the growth and grace of total cosmos, and which includes humanity. That's a prayer. I repeat, you have got it, I have got it as formators. But I also included even formations. They may be only candidates. They may be only pre-novices. They may be only the initial stage of formation. They may think, no, they are only 17, 18 or 16, 19. No. There's a fire. The fact that they have come to us, there's a fire. And we have to really recognize and make them recognize, and we need to respect and make them respect. So that the recognition and the respect of the fire within is now being pushed up. And the years of formation should give us that facilitation so that the fire takes wings and fly high. I thinking, I doing, even the given small context. I thinking, I doing, highly, H-I-G-H, I doing, even in the given small context. We may be thinking big, and we should be doing big, but in the given small place. Earlier they used to say, think big, do big in a big way. Today they say, no. Think big, do big in the given small place. Fire, and winds. Have fire, then go for winds. Allow the fire within you, take on winds for greater things. I pray for this grace, that God may shower on you today in the light of all the 6 points that I have given. The first is only appreciation and congratulation. The second point is definition of formation in terms of 2 P's. And the third point is the message of God of COVID 3.3 issues, 3 messages. And the fourth one is the formation cannot be neutral, sidelining with people. There again, 3 priority peoples. And the fourth point that I gave was what could be the new paths. Again, 3 I thought of. It's not exhaustive, comprehensive list, but at least it will trigger off your discussion and deliberation, and you will see that the Ministry of Formation gets new colors, new paths, new orientation. And the 6th point is nothing but asking for the grace of God, that we will have that particular quality, docility, to recognize and respect the fire within us, and also fire in the hearts and minds of each and everyone who are in our formation, early or late, whatever we do. And also helping them, facilitating them, animating them, motivating them, and transforming them so that their fire will not be kept only as fire, but takes on wings, all for God's mission. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I end my presentation now at exactly about 40 minutes I have taken. And there is 10 more minutes to go before we go for coffee break. Over to you.
Father Jerry,
Yes, welcome.
thank you very much, first of all, for accepting to give a talk for us as a formators, as a Capuchins, and a kind of integration of your spirituality with the Franciscan spirituality, and then trying to tell us how practically we should do our formation. And in very specially, I'm happy to get the point from you. Formation is not neutral.
It's not?
Is not neutral, and it cannot be neutral too. So that's a very, very strong point that I'm trying to, what I call, explain again, saying that most of the time, the formation aims at making persons to be a priest. Priest in the sense of, let us say, as I said, a sacramental priest, and the ministry seems to be around that sacraments. And the sacrament, as we see in the social context, is the people, and we do not know. And our formation does not aim at what I call doing some kind of, what I say, practical way of exhibiting or doing our pastoral activities. So it is centered around only the, what I call, sacraments. Now that I find that most of our friars also, even our one, sometimes when we talk about the friars, what is the ministry that we are doing there? Most of the time we talk about only priestly ministry, saying mass and preaching retreat, and with that we stop. So therefore, could you please enlighten us some more of how you were, what I call, in your ministry, as I said, no, that you have been a pastor, as well as a formator, as well as a social worker, activist, and so on, how it is possible for you to integrate all these things and enlighten us in that way, so that, as you said, no, there was 7 years of neutral formation, and after that, in the 5th year onwards, you started having a kind of focus on which you were able to form yourself. And one of our students also was telling that till the end of what I call formation, we did not know what to do.
Yeah.
Then once we are put in the context, we do not know again what to do. So we are stuck up with this kind of things. Can you enlighten us on this little more?
Thank you so much for asking this question. I got two responses to give. You asked for practical, I'm going to suggest also very practical. Number one, when they come, as they begin their formation, kindly ask them to make a quick survey, make a survey. What are the experiences that touch them, even at home, even as a youngster, even as a school boy? And what are the basic experiences that really given them a jolt, given them a jerk, given them certain disturbance, and given them certain vibration, because of which they are not quite the same. This particular thing has to be the starting point, a kind of a alpha point in terms of formation. Especially the responsibility will stay with the initial stage formators, who need to really highlight this one and ask the person to draw the challenges that are come from that particular experiences, which may be rather random, which may be rather ongoing, or which may be even spontaneous, but still experience. It's like a burning bush. Chapter number 3, book of Exodus. The bush was burning, but not being burned down. That gave a certain vibration. And then he looked for certain direction, Moses. Then we know his life of dedication. Number one, initial stage. The later stage, I want to put two suggestions quickly so that other questions also can come up. The later stage, whether the philosophy, theology, later stage, and all the formings, all those formation, they should be networking, being in touch with, working along a movement, a local movement, which may have certain national perspectives, but local movement, and which are really taking sides in favor of Dalits, migrants, workers, whatnot. And so that as they have the Anubhava experience with those movements, they will no need to start a new movement. Movements are there and which are really working. They may not be working as per our expectation, They are working as per their vision. Okay, we will have a certain critical collaboration. We collaborate so long that the movement goes along with the values of the gospel of Jesus, goes along with Franciscan focus of our participation in God's mission. We collaborate and cooperate, network, and then when they do that one, look at my detail. There's not simple Anubhava experience that will get into their philosophizing. Whether they study Karl Marx, whether they study Ramanuja, whether they study Saiva Siddhanta, or whether they study Kierkegaard, whether they study Socrates, everyone becomes something new. They begin to contextualize and they interpret, if not hermeneutize, so that in course of time, they're getting formed how to respond in course of time. Or whether they are theologians. And they will also bring that the experience of that particular association with the movement, especially of the target people, migrant people, certain priority people, and then bring that one into theologizing. Then Gospel of Matthew will speak in a new way. The words of Prophet Isaiah will come to them in a different way. I can even add, even life of Francis of Assisi will have new revelations to make. And those revelations, when they're given to oneself, to ourselves, that becomes our formation. Then we know our participation and contribution to God's mission is done in a very, very definitive way, not in a wishy-washy way, not a goody-goody way, not a neutral way, not a insensitive way, not a static way, but dynamic. Over. Thank you.